Hello viewers and namaskar. Welcome to Mood India, California Art Association's presentation on the performing arts from India. I'm your host Nachiketa. With me here is Vivek Datar. Vivek is with the instrument that we are going to present today, the harmonium. Vivek is a student of Pandit Vinayak Rao Kale and is a very reputed harmonium player. On the tabla is Abhinay Padhye. Abhinay is a student of Sri Nana Mule and Pandit Bhai Gaitonde and is currently a student of Pandit Sapun Chaudhary. So Vivek, why are there two harmoniums here?
Very good question. There are two harmoniums here because they are tuned differently. So this one, which I just played, is in what we call a Gandhar tuning in Indian context. It's also known as just intonation in the Western context.
Just intonation.
Yeah, just intonation. Whereas this one is what we generally call a generic tuning or equal temperament. So that's the way this one is tuned, and all the pianos and most of the other instruments are tuned as per the generic or the equal temperament.
I see. So this is tuned with the just intonation. That harmonium is tuned with equal temperament.
Equal temperament. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know you have talked about in our conversations outside the studio about different types of tuning.
Right.
And so explain to us in human terms what that means.
Okay, so there are lots of different tunings that have been tried over probably several centuries in reality, and these two have pretty much remained. There are lots of others which are, a lot of them are only theoretical interest to many people, but the just intonation, which is this, and the equal temperament, this, which is, they have remained, and they are pretty much used. For example, Indian classical, we use nothing but the just, and that's how, for example, the human voice will sound. If you just play with the tambura, then the notes that you hit with the human voice are the just intonation notes.
I see.
You probably will not hit on your own. I mean, or you won't hit these notes.
I see. The tambura being the drone instrument.
The tambura being the drone instrument, which is playing in the background.
Which is
the electronic
is a necessity
version
for all Indian classical concerts.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. So if you want to actually know what is tuning, then
I do.
Good. So good for asking. It's not a quote unquote very interesting subject. Not too many people actually go deep into it. I tried to go a little bit. So before we go there, let's understand what the tuning is. So for example, this drone is actually tuned to this. It's correctly tuned. The way when we say it's tuned, what happens is, let's make an assumption that your sa is 100 hertz. Okay.
The sa being the key.
The tonic note.
Right.
Yeah, that's the tonic note.
Right.
Or the first key.
Like the first. And the sa in the Indian classical tradition and the Indian music tradition is arbitrary.
Yeah.
So
it can be anywhere.
When you say this sa here, you're talking about a particular frequency.
Yeah, this particular note, and that's going to be my tonic note.
That's going to be a tonic. Okay.
Exactly. And let's assume it's 100 hertz. And there is another sa, like some other instruments, say violin, that you want to tune it exactly at 100 hertz, then it's very simple. I mean, if it's at 99 hertz, it's not tuned. If it's at 100 hertz, it's tuned.
Right.
And the way to figure this out is, if it is, for example, if it's at 99, then 100 minus 99, you hear a 1 hertz, which means once every second of beats. That means the sound is not consistent. It's not like sa, it goes like sa, it keeps on oscillating.
Okay.
And if you hear those oscillations, which are also called beats, then things are not in tune.
Okay.
If you don't hear them, and if both of them are perfectly matching, then you don't hear anything, and we call it in tune.
Okay.
That's pretty much the universal definition of what the tuning is.
Okay. Now, how would a human listen or hear the differences? Must the human ear be trained to do that, or is it obvious?
it's like it needs a little bit of training, but it becomes obvious afterwards. The trick that I use is, for example, if I am tuning the drone tambura with the harmonium, then the trick is you need to listen to only one instrument. Don't listen to both instruments. Just concentrate on one and just see how the beats are being heard.
Okay.
And as you kind of come in tune, you will hear beats, and then the beat frequency will be longer and longer. At some point in time, it will be all flat.
Okay.
If you keep on tuning up, you'll start hearing the beats again.
Okay. Okay.
So that's how the beat. And another interesting phenomena about beats is, and I'm going to introduce a few terms here. So let's say 100 hertz sa. It's not exactly 100. I mean, it is 100 definitely, but there are components in it, and the components are 100, 200, 300 hertz, 400 hertz, so on and so forth.
I see.
So there are all these components that are present, and
Okay.
That's, for example, a sa or the tonic note. If this is 100, then this is 200, and that's
So
how
the
you
same
tune it.
sa an octave higher.
Exactly,
Okay.
is exactly double, and that's how you tune the higher octave sa. For example, if you want to tune the higher octave sa, which is at 200, then what happens is, if that's not in tune, if that's at 199, for example, then it creates the beats again with the second component of the normal sa, which is 200 hertz. So you will hear beats one more time.
Okay. So although the first sa is at 100 hertz, the second sa is not necessarily at 200 hertz.
Yeah, and then you'll hear beats if that's the case. And as soon as it becomes exactly 200, you will not hear beats.
Okay.
And that's again in tune.
And a simple question, maybe a silly question, but how do you measure the 100 and 200 hertz? Is there some instrument that you use?
Yeah, so in my tuning, there are lots of people, both here as well as in India, they can tune by ear, and they do a really, really great job doing that.
Okay. So they have an inbuilt.
They have
instrument.
they have trained it.
Okay.
I'm not trained in that, so I go ahead and use the laptop, and there are many programs that you can get that can measure the frequency.
Okay.
And by looking at it and again also using my ear, I can hear the beats, and that's how I tune the harmonium.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So so you talked about this harmonium being with the sa being at, assuming the sa to be at 100 hertz, and the upper octave sa being at 200 hertz.
Right.
Is there a difference with how that harmonium would be tuned?
So
as
yes,
opposed to this?
yeah, the good question. So the key difference is not in the sa. So if this sa is 100 and this sa will be 200, there is no question about that.
In either
in both
type of tuning.
styles,
Okay.
or actually in like almost all styles of tunings.
Okay.
If you go one octave up, then you are doubling. There is no question about
Okay.
that.
Okay.
The difference is how the rest of the surs are tuned. And like, let me take a quick example. Pancham, which is the fifth.
Okay. As in sa re ga ma pa.
As in sa re ga ma pa.
Pa.
We call it pa or pancham. In the Western style, it's called the fifth. Now, what is the perfect fifth? So the perfect fifth is the one that would produce no beats against the sa or the tonic note. And in any style of tuning, the perfect one is at 150. If the sa is 100, then the perfect one is at 150. And the reason, which I'll explain, is obvious. Sa has 100, 200, 300 hertz frequencies, components.
Correct.
A perfect pa, which is 150, will have 150, 300, 450, like that.
Sure.
Clearly, at a 50 hertz beat, we don't hear. We hear 1 or 2 hertz beats. So there is 100 and 150 hertz, they will produce some beats, but that's you can ignore safely. But the second component of 150 is 300. So that does not produce beats with the 100 hertz sa. That's why it's in perfect tune.
Okay.
If you have, say, 149, then you are going to hear beats, and you are going to say, these two are not in tune.
I see. I see.
So everybody who does that, by ear, the singers who are adjusting the drone or tambura or violin players, they all go by beats. Obviously people don't know the theory behind it, but they don't need to. They are so good at it that they can just do it.
Yes. So it is not enough that say for example the violin and harmonium are in tune. It's that the harmonium itself should be in tune
with the
notes that are, with the keys that are on
as
the
long violin and this one gets in tune, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
So in fact, this pancham thing, so I can tell you a very interesting thing. So, you know, everybody can hear beats, and it's not really hard. So, you know, you could think that, you know, tuning the harmonium is very easy. All that you have to do is very simple. You know, you take, for example, you take the sa, then do a perfect fifth. Great. Take this as your tonic note and go to its perfect fifth. Okay. And you keep on doing that.
Okay.
And if you keep on doing that, and if you restrict yourself to just this octave, then, you know, there are 12 notes in the octave. If you walk it 12 times, you are going to hit each single note once, and at the end of that, you are going to hit the tar shaj, or the, you know, the upper octave, upper octave sa. No, it's not too hard. You can do that. And you might think you are done with the tuning, right? Now here is the surprise. The surprise is that if you do this and if you tune everything perfectly, the perfect fifth, then after doing it 12 times, the sa, or the upper octave tonic note that you get, does not match with where you started. It's not 200. And it's like not off a little bit. It's substantially off.
Why is that?
Well, that's where the whole tuning is. One of the reasons is, like, without going into the arithmetic, which, you know, anybody can do. The thing is that we are changing the key all the time, and that's one of the reasons why this happens.
When you're changing the key,
we are changing the tonic note. When we say this sa and its fifth, right, and then we say this and then its fifth, and we keep on doing that. So that's one of the reasons why this happens.
Okay.
So that's, in order to overcome that, the so-called equal temperament has come into place. So what they do in equal temperament is they literally take 100 and 200 hertz, or, you know, sa and the tar shad sa, and they mathematically divide that into 12 intervals.
Okay.
And literally each one is exactly same. Okay. So as a result, what you get is none of the notes are quote unquote perfectly in unison with the tonic. They always produce beats.
I see.
But they all sound similar. For example, if I do this, so if I do this, so this is sa ga pa chord, right?
The sa, ga, and pa.
Sa,
Okay.
right? Now if I play the same chord in some other note, you know, it sounds the same. There is no difference.
Because the difference is always the same.
The difference is always the same. So you can just do the change of key is very, very easy. You can play in any key, and, you know, depending on your viewpoint, it sounds all equally good or equally bad. You know, I don't know how to describe it.
Okay.
But, you know, I'm not trying to say that equal temperament is bad. If you want to play light music, you need that.
Okay.
Now I'll just show you the same thing in the just intonation harmony, and then you will see the difference right away. So it's tuned for this, so it will sound good. Okay. This sounds good. This sounds good. Very nice. Okay. Now this is the C sharp as the tonic key. All that I had to do is change the tonic key to something else, and you'll see how off it is. Okay. This is good. Now let me change here.
So you change the tonic.
I changed the tonic, and I'm playing the sa and see how off it is. It's really off.
Yes, I can hear that the sa and pa.
Yeah, it's bad. This is good. This is bad. So if I just play the major chord of sa ga pa, then this is sounding good. It's not sounding good. So that's why this will sound bad as well.
Yes.
This will sound bad.
Yes.
So it's kind of unplayable, literally. I mean, you can't play that. So
and
that's the major disadvantage.
Here it is, yes, definitely.
So the disadvantage here is that if I tune, you know, it in C sharp, for example, with that tonic note I can play. With anything else, this instrument cannot be used.
I see.
Whereas here, I can play here I can play here, I can play here.
Okay.
Any note can
depending
be tonic.
on the sa of the
singer.
Of the singer. Okay. Okay.
Or the orchestra if
right.
you're playing.
So here you're pretty much stuck to a person who's
Exactly.
singing in C sharp.
Exactly.
Okay.
C sharp and nothing else.
I see. I see. So speaking of which, how is this instrument, the harmonium? You talked about tuning and the different methods. How do you use this instrument to accompany on the Indian music
right. So
environment?
It's a Western instrument, very widely used in Indian context. And if you are playing with the classical music, then you pretty much follow and accompany the singer. And whenever the chance is, you kind of try to follow the singer's thought process and try to play the same things.
I see.
And so not to disturb the singer.
I see. Not to intervene.
Not to intervene.
To sort of.
Yeah. Okay. But just to support.
Okay.
Whereas and this one is really well suited for that. This has
for
been used
for a person who is singing in C sharp.
In C sharp, right. Exactly. Only C sharp.
Right.
Whereas on the light classical like ghazal or thumri and that kind of music, this one is very well suited. You can play a lot of chords here.
Right.
And that sounds really nice.
Okay.
Those chords you cannot play here.
I see. So, how did this instrument gain prominence? Being a Western instrument, how did it become so prominent?
So it's one of the reasons is that the notes are always ever ready, and once tuned, for example, it doesn't go off tune for quite some time. And I can show you even how to tune it and some of the internals of it.
Okay.
But that's one of the good things. It's kind of easy to carry. For example, this one is meant for carrying, as you can see. It's easy to lug around, and it's by and large quite steady. Nothing bad happens to it.
Okay. So I'm assuming there is some internals in here inside the harmonium,
right,
that you can tune, and
yes.
which are also subject to temperatures and other environmental conditions.
Exactly. Right.
Okay,
so what happens is most of us have done this tuning fork experiment in physics,
in
high school physics.
Right.
Yeah. So the harmonium inside is nothing but a set of tuning forks. And here with me, I have one of them here, which it has a bass out here, and the tongue here vibrates.
Okay.
And there is a casing, and from one side the air enters, and on this side it leaves, and as that happens with the bellows, this tongue vibrates, and that creates the sound.
Right.
And so this is pretty much the way it is. And then you might ask how to tune it, right?
Yeah.
And so the tuning process itself is like, these are the two instruments that you use for tuning. One is the file, and this instrument is just useful, to if you want to file something, you can just use it here.
Okay.
Place it inside.
Okay.
And what happens is with this, if you actually scrub out the top portion of the tongue, then the note goes up. If you scrub out the bottom portion of the tongue, then the note goes down. And as you can see, either way, it's slightly destructive. You cannot put the material back on.
Yes.
That's not possible.
Once you scrape it off, it's gone.
It's gone. So, you can do that, but you have to be very, very careful.
Sounds like precision science.
It's quite precision actually. And then, many times, you don't have to actually scratch a lot at all. Even a very slight scratch is all that it takes to get it in tune.
And this is one note.
This is one note.
Key.
One
or
key.
I should say on the keyboard.
Right.
Okay.
So this harmonium has two sets of such reed for each note. This one has 3 sets.
3 sets.
3 sets. And this one is like 3 octaves as well. So 3 sets of 3 different octaves. So this one is produces much bigger sound. Very well suited for light type of music.
Obviously harder to tune as well.
Obviously harder to tune. Right?
Yes.
It takes much longer to tune that than compared to this.
Oh, excellent. And the harmonium itself, is there any other use? I know the harmonium as a solo, as an instrument all by itself hasn't gained as much prominence as it has as an accompanying instrument. Is there any other place where another use that the harmonium has?
So a lot of music composers, they actually use harmonium as their main thing for composing.
I see.
It's kind of gaining as a solo instrument popularity slowly, and it will probably take a lot of people are doing a lot of experiments, very good experiments.
Okay.
Some of them will stay, some of them will go away, but eventually over the time, I'm sure that things will get better, and this will actually attain the solo status that it should, in my opinion.
Okay. So we'd love to hear you play something more in depth and on the harmonium.
Yeah, so I will be I'll be playing Yaman, and I'll
this
be
is
playing.
A rag.
This is the rag Yaman, and I'll be playing 2 compositions in tal, teen tal, which is 16 beats. And both the compositions are composed by my guru Pandit Vinayak Rao Kale. I'll be using this harmonium.
Okay.
To play that.
Wonderful. This has been a presentation of the Harmonium by Vivek Datar. We hope you enjoyed it. We welcome your feedback and suggestions. Please join us again for our future presentations on Mood India by the California Arts Association. Until then, namaskar.